Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout. Emil Amok's takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Yeah, this is the takeout. Come here. It's like the point joint. Filipinos know that. Oh, I want that. I want that. I want that. And then you get to the end of the register and you pay and you can eat there or take it out. So many takes today. Glad to be here. Try to keep it short. Part of the new me. It's Holy Week. Are you holying? Holy Thursday. We should see a slowdown, but the news keeps coming. The news keeps. I wonder. It used to be that you can rely on these periods where there was a slowdown, like around holidays, like Christmas. That period before Christmas or after Christmas and New Year's, always dead. But now everything is the PR media mavens have figured out that that's the way to get attention. So everyone dumps news Friday before the weekend or during the slow time, and it just so there's a lot. And then there's the not everyone's on good behavior. There's that shooting at FSU, Florida State University. Actually, when I visited Florida a couple times, I always like going to Tallahassee. I always like seeing the university and hanging out there. So it pains me to know that here's a shooting. There's at least a couple people dead. Seems like about a half dozen or so injured. But it dawned on me that this is what cable news does best. I mean, what cable news what it does best isn't debate, isn't an elephant and a donkey yelling at each other. What it does best is here's a camera, here's news, let me show you what's going on. And so I was really not happy, but it just struck me that when the political show was over and they went to the news, they had news, they had stuff happening, but they could stick a camera on and say, here it is, and here. But then, we have so many shootings in America that they become pretty commonplace in the sense that, we're going to look and see how people are standing down. We're going to, how students are reacting, where the eyewitnesses, where the first responders. And, you just know, well, the next step is you're going to talk to an eyewitness and they're going to say, yeah, I heard this, I'm scared. It ends up being routine. And we've been through this so many times and not enough so that we can't see it again. I mean, not enough so that we learn so that it never happens again, but we see it again, and it's tragic and it's sad. And I just recall how when I was a teacher at the university level, the training we had to go through. What happens when someone comes in and there's a live shooter? What do we do? Don't play a hero. Well, we know that 2 people are dead. They're not students. That's all the detail they got into. And so developing story, the FSU shooting, sad, because that may dominate all the other news that needs to be discussed today. First, before I get to really the big story that concerns Asian Americans, because, our subtitle is WDAAAT, what does an Asian American think? Birthright citizenship. The courts said, yeah, we are going to hear this case, or at least maybe the procedural part of this case. So maybe the narrow part, then get to the wide part about, is birthright citizenship constitutional? By virtue of being in the 14th Amendment, in the very first line, it is a constitutional issue. But the first step is a judge has blocked this case from going forward, and now it's at the Supreme Court, and the the justices will have to rule, does a judge have the right to block this case? And if that's all they're ruling on, that might be a holdup, a speed bump, but they're saying they're going to have a hearing on May 15th, sometime in May. And if it's a vigorous hearing beyond just the procedural matter of can a judge block the written order of the president, we could have this is actually the first case at the Supreme Court level in terms of deciding whether or not Donald Trump can rule with his authoritarian hand, with a stroke of the pen, rewrite the Constitution, strike down the Constitution. And we are in this slide of what I call the new AA. The new AA. Alcoholics Anonymous, Emil? No. The new AA is American authoritarianism. And Donald Trump is trying to get his arms up to flex. He's not strong enough because there may not be guardrails in his administration, but there are constitutional protections that he has to go around. So he is rightfully chained by these restrictions, but he is trying to bust loose and show off to the world an American strongman, American authoritarianism, and it is bleak, dark, sad, and concerning. And if you, since the inaugural January 20th, were thinking, we'll get by this. This too shall pass. I don't know. I was reading the Thomas Friedman column yesterday about how he's more scared about the future of America than at any time of his journalistic career. I must say that I myself was feeling the same thing, took the words right out of my mouth. And when all of this stuff happens, like it's a multi-ring circus. I hate the circus, but it comes up as an available metaphor. Multiple fronts, it's coming at you. We can't give up, can't give in. You got to stand up, push back. And it pleases me to say that yesterday, the first lawsuit to challenge the legality and constitutionality of Donald Trump's tariff policy, his seat of the pants, off the top of his head tariff policy, was filed in California on behalf of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, but filed by the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, Filipino-American, which I know, hey, some people say identity politics is dead, but spare me, if a Filipino-American who happens to be Attorney General is the first Attorney General in the United States to file a lawsuit to stop or to challenge the Trump tariffs, I say, hey, identity politics is not dead. Not yet. Sorry, James Carville. Love you, but identity politics is not dead. And it's not that it's dead, but Carville's view is identity politics doesn't win. But we are in this era where 50, 100, 200 years later, we're still commenting on how novel it is to see people of different races who represent the new America, how they pop up in these exalted positions of power, showing they are unable to do the things that many Americans won't do. I'm talking about all of Congress. I mean, except for a handful. Certainly all the Republicans who will stand up to Donald Trump. Republicans in Congress, a handful. There's a handful are saying, hey, we're rethinking this tariff stuff. But in terms of real, positive, has a chance to stop the tariffs. Filipino-American, California Attorney General, Rob Bonta's lawsuit filed yesterday really has a chance, calling the tariffs unconstitutional, beyond the purview of the emergency law that Bonta used, some kind of international, it's called the IEP, has a funny IEPA, the IEPPA, the International Economic Emergency Powers Act, which was instituted in 1977 or brought into law in 1977 by Congress, has never been enacted, has nowhere in any of its remedies as a possibility tariffs, doesn't even mention tariffs. So it's a little known law, and isn't it funny, all these little known laws, these that pack a punch, Donald Trump is using him to justify everything he's doing. For the tariffs, it's this IEEPA, which is not something you drink, but it's the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. And then doesn't mention tariffs, but Donald Trump goes back to his love affair with tariffs. Remember, at that first Netanyahu press conference last Monday, he said, oh, America was great. 1870 to 1913. The 1870s, like post-Reconstruction, right? To 1913. Philippines was a colony. Oh, that's when America was great. That's how far back we're going with Donald Trump. It's not a 21st century America. It's a 19th century America, and we're sliding down. And not even, well, he talks about expansionism. He talks about a new American empire, but he is definitely talking about American authoritarianism. The new AA, I call it. That's what it is. Good luck to Rob Bonta. He filed the suit. He was in my neck of the woods in the Central Valley of California. Because, you talk about farmers who are getting hit. Oh, those are the soybean guys, right? In the Midwest, right? Well, yeah, they get hit. But don't forget the farmers in California. I mean, if I had $1 for every time they said in this suit that California is the 5th largest economy in the world, I'd be a rich man. I would. California is the 5th largest economy. Hard to believe. If you're thinking about abandoning California, I know some people say, it's too expensive. There's a reason why it's too expensive. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. We're going to get hit by these tariffs. And that's one of the bases for filing this suit out of California first. Because California, no doubt, has standing. Businesses, big and small, ag, manufacturing. The number one manufacturing state in the country. Not Detroit. Everyone's thinking about cars. It's not Detroit. It's not the Steel Belt. It's California. 5th largest economy in the world. And Rob Bonta has filed this suit to, in his words, protect families, to protect businesses, to protect the people of California from the harm that these tariffs are going to bring to this state. So it was good to see Bonta, good to see Newsom in really the ag belt. I mean, it's the breadbasket of the nation, right? The Central Valley. People forget that. But because they only see the coast, they only see San Francisco, LA, to a degree, San Diego, but San Diego. Adjunct to Mexico, right? But it's the Valley, Inner California. We forget, but Inner California really will determine the future of this state. That's where the swing voters are. That's where the people who may have voted right wing are now saying, did we get screwed over? Did we get the, I mean, look, we have a leadership vacuum on both sides, Republican and Democrat. But the people, they know where to go. And they're looking. I mean, I was just reading about a new poll about Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor. I guess it doesn't pay to be the number 2 to Kamala Harris when Kamala Harris is so maligned by everyone. Even though, look, I had a change of heart and I started liking her a little bit. Because really, I really thought, she was being hammered by the racists, by the misogynists, and my petty points that I had about her when she was a San Francisco DA. I'm putting him aside for the good of the nation. And what happened? She got clobbered, but not by much. But there are no coattails for Tim Walz. So if he's thinking about being president in like the 2020s, he's going to have to make his name as governor first. Governor in Minnesota. Anyway, so it was good to see Bonta and Newsom in the Central Valley. Good to see this lawsuit. We'll see what happens. But I think it's worth crowing about to say, we're witnessing the first lawsuit against the Trump tariffs. It was filed by a Filipino American who is Attorney General of California. That's diversity. That's meritocracy. That's what Donald Trump fears. Really. I mean, because if you look at all his the things that really get him going. He's anti-woke, anti-DEI. Remember Hegseth? One of the things he likes about Hegseth at Department of Defense, and the reason why Hegseth is so popular is because Hegseth, he gets it. You flatter the hell out of your guy. Excuse me there. I got the Hegseth sneezies there. And you do whatever the boss wants, and the boss wants you to get rid of DEI. You do a massive purge in everything. The history, the websites. You strip out the Enola Gay, the plain Enola Gay, because that's like a DEI reference to LGBTQ. See how ridiculous it gets? But that's why Hegseth is still there. Even though he's done a lot of bonehead things in the first 80, 100 days, like the Signalgate thing, which is sort of dead, but not really dead. People remember what he did. That's why he's laying low, because he's incompetent. Anyway, Rob Bonta filing this suit shows diversity is still a thing. Diversity is still a value. Diversity is still the thing that threatens Donald Trump, because when you have a diverse nation, what do you do with all those unqualified white people? I mean, that really is the question. What are you going to do with all the unqualified white people who look up to Donald Trump? And all they can do is think about being insurrectionists and lying on behalf of Trump. And like Peter Navarro, who's well educated, but he went to jail, went to prison for Donald Trump. That's what's keeping Donald Trump afloat. It's the It's the folks who are scared that America is becoming too diverse, not for its own good, but for their own good. A diverse America is bad for certain people who can't compete. And there's a great many whites who can't compete against smarter, more brilliant people of color coming up through the ranks, either born here, homegrown, or immigrants who are just more ambitious and who want success more. They're driven, they're resilient. So maybe this whole MAGA thing is a way to give white people resilience, the resilience they don't have. I don't know, but it just seems to me that when you look at it, that's what Donald Trump is upset about most. So upset about it that he wants to un-DEI America. He wants to go back and wipe out the histories, go back and not have anyone say anything about, Harriet Beecher Stowe. Forget it. She doesn't exist. Wipe her out. Don't talk about America's negative history. Let's just talk about the good things. Well, in the future, when they look back at history, they'll look at Rob Bonta being the first Filipino American to file a suit challenging those wrong-headed Trump tariffs. And that will be a milestone in history, American history, especially if it's proven that tariffs that Trump has instituted are unconstitutional, are unlawful, are illegal, and it stands as the example for other AGs to go forward in their state. So congratulations to Rob Bonta. And it is a moment in America's DEI history, whether Trump likes it or not. That's a Trumpian phrase, whether you like it or not. He likes to say that. Remember, he used that when he had on his garbage outfit in Wisconsin. He said, I want to praise the women, whether they like it or not. Because a lot of women don't like Donald Trump. I mean, certainly not Stormy Daniels. So the big story today really is this birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment. And as I said earlier, it may just be a procedural thing that they decide on. Can judges block? I mean, this is the thing about an authoritarian like Trump. He doesn't like it when judges get in his way. To him, the judges are the speed bumps. But the judges are the checks. The judges are the guardrails that say, hey, you, Donald Trump, you can't do this. You, Donald Trump, you can't. You cannot do this. Here's the 14th Amendment. It says here, and in this case is the first of all the things that Donald Trump is trying to do to reform our country, the first to get to the Supreme Court. If this case is, gets heard on it will get heard on the 15th, but if it progresses and the Trump forces win, then not only will, they have standing, they'll be able to push back the judge. Then we'll hear whether or not the Trump administration has the right to roll back a law that goes back 130 years. I mean, that's when it was affirmed, the 14th Amendment, by the Wong Kim Ark case, an Asian American. Remember, that's the case I like to talk about every Asian American History Month in May. It's going to be more important this month, this May, than ever. Wong Kim Ark, born in San Francisco to Chinese parents. Chinese parents go back to China. Wong Kim Ark goes on vacation, does not get allowed back because there's a challenge to birthright citizenship. Wong Kim Ark wins. Ever since that day in the 1890s, it's been law. Now, you might say, Emil, it's been law. It will forever be law. Look at Roe v. Wade. Look at the Voting Rights Act and how that's been slowly dismantled. Donald Trump doesn't believe in settled law. I mean, how can you have settled law when a man who wants to be an autocrat insists on shredding the Constitution, on rewriting the law or undoing the law? I didn't think we'd see it in my lifetime, but it's where we're going. It's a big case. Read up on it. I have the New York Times here. Their headline, Supreme Court to hear arguments on Trump plan to end birthright citizenship. The Trump administration had asked the justices to lift a nationwide pause on the policy as lower court challenges continue. And you're going to see more lower court challenges. But now they're saying, let's just go to the top and let SCOTUS decide. And so the lead graph in the New York Times, the Supreme Court announced on Thursday that it would hear arguments in a few weeks over President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. The brief order by the justices was unsigned and gave no reasoning, as is typical in such emergency cases. So once again, there's a use of an emergency. The use of or describing the situation as an emergency, and then using emergency laws like that IEPA that was used to allow tariffs, the tariff plan of Trump to go through. Are we in an emergency now? We're in an emergency for Trump because he wants to get things done. But it's no emergency to anyone else. Back to the Times. But the unusual move is a sign that the justices consider the matter significant enough that they would immediately hold oral argument on the government's request to lift a nationwide pause on the policy. The justices announced they would defer any consideration of the temporary block on the policy until they heard oral arguments, which they set for May 15th. That means the executive order, which would end birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants and foreign residents, will remain paused in every state while the court considers the case. The order was the latest response to a series of emergency applications brought by the Trump administration to challenge lower court blocks on a number of policies, including efforts to freeze more than $1 billion in foreign aid and the deportation of Venezuelans to a prison in El Salvador without due process. Now, this, again, is Trump's MO. Go to the court, plead an emergency, and we're going to see this over and over again. And I really don't know what the court's going to do. What is the court going to do? They can say, yeah, we're going to lift the emergency. Or we're going to honor the emergency. We're going to hear this. And then we're going to have a battle on our hands. Birthright citizenship. It's in the Constitution. It's been affirmed law since the 1890s. And we're going to go back to just because you're born in the U.S., you're not a citizen. It's been abused. I'm not saying that law hasn't been abused. But who has abused that law? I mean, they've got vacation plans. Vacation in America, you pregnant mothers. Have your babies. Birth an American citizen. They have those kind of plans. If you're Russian, yeah, I mean, the big stories out. I mean, this is not the first time people have challenged birthright citizenship. It's just the first time it's got to this level because most people just say, nah, we're not going to do it. We're not going to. No, we're not going to have birthright. I mean, we're going to continue. We're going to stick with birthright citizenship. That's just the way it is. But nope. Donald Trump is the great disruptor, and we are. I think this is a threat. You want to talk about a real threat to America as we know it? This is a threat to America as we know it. An end to birthright citizenship. And what could possibly happen? You know, my parents weren't citizens when they had me. Would they go back? Would they make it? They post-date everything? Oh, I'm sorry, Emil. You got to deport yourself. I wouldn't put it past Donald Trump. All right, so the other big thing in the news is, you know, the judges. Thank goodness for the judges. And I think this is what is at the core of the judges at the Supreme Court level hearing the arguments, because Donald Trump doesn't like justices getting in his way of doing his autocratic job. Well, no one wants an autocrat in America. Oh, but he wants. Well, the latest is an appeals court judge that said, yes, the DOJ must abide by the district judges, by her demands that they show her, they give her evidence about what the U.S. is doing to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And that would seem to be a no-brainer, but this is a Justice Department that only follows one thing, and that is the desires and whims of Donald Trump. And he does not want to give up. He does not want to give in. He will fight you tooth and nail, as they say, on every single point, right to the end. No matter how much it costs, no matter who gets hurt. And so every single point he's fighting on, because every single point is a delay. And if you are a supporter of the immigrants and the supporter of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, we still don't know really how well he's doing. We know he's alive. We know he's in custody. But we don't know really how well he is. We don't know the status of his health. A lot of people still are suspicious about his overall well-being. And no one on the Trump side wants to hear a first-person account from Kilmar Abrego Garcia about what it's like to be taken by mistake while driving your autistic child. No one wants to hear his eyewitness testimony about how the ICE troops apprehended him, got him on a plane, and sent him to a mega prison. No one in the Trump administration wants anyone to hear how he was treated by the Salvadoran guards, how he was treated while in custody. And that's why you're seeing the Trump administration fight this so hard. And of course, once it's seen that Abrego Garcia was denied due process and is entitled to it, all the other dozens of prisoners who were taken off the streets in the U.S. and sent to Salvador, it'll be their turn for justice. That's what the Trump administration does not want to see. All right, I guess that's it. I'm going to stop here because it's Easter coming up. I want to sneak in maybe a Good Friday show tomorrow. I'll keep it short. Maybe I'll have I'll have Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez join me. It's always fun to talk to Dan, especially after this week. So we'll cut it short here. Some people are asking, thank you for being curious, when are you going to do a show, Emil? When are you going to do, are you going to take the Fresno show? Well, that was the thought, to do the show here. I certainly will do the show before June, because in June or July, I'm going to Canada. I'm taking the show and I want to like work it out a couple of times. I gotta do it. So I'll probably take it on the road, maybe even do it free. Would I do it free? With a sponsorship? I don't know. We're working on things. In the meantime, it's the Holy Week. So I hope you're being spiritual. And if you are, and if you're having a hard time with being spiritual, remember, it's all about the love. It's all about send out the love. Yeah, I may not like Donald Trump politically, but I love him. Yeah. I mean, I root for the president. I want him to do the least boneheaded thing. If he just does the least, I would be happier. I mean, I believe in democracy. People voted at him, not by a mandate, just by 1.5%, margin. It's not a landslide. Believe me, I know landslides. I saw McGovern get blown away by Richard Nixon. That was a landslide. Popular, electoral, always. But Trump did not win the landslide. But so I accept. I didn't say it was rigged, the vote. I accept his being my president. I just would like him to be the best possible president that a talk show host can be. Yeah, that's a low bar. Now, I want him to be the best possible president that a stupid, unqualified white person can be. That's all I ask. It's not asking too much. I want him to succeed. And so we end with a little loving kindness. That's what it is, loving kindness. Love makes the world go round. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. YouTube at Emil Amok 1. Till next time.